welcome back to George Washington's Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior in Company and Conversation. I love this training. It is so uncommon to hear it. And we're going today with part 2 out of many because there are many rules. I think it's over 100. So last week we went over the first 5 and hopefully you caught up on these. We are going on rule number 6. And funny enough, it talks about etiquette and how to properly act and behave when you sit, when there's a fire, when you are standing or sitting in front of others. So let's go through rule number 6. Sleep not when others speak. Sit not when others stand. Speak not when you should hold your peace. And walk not on when others stop. Basic. And I know this sounds, again, a lot like common sense. And if it doesn't, make it common sense for you, right? You're not supposed to be sleeping in a room where others are talking. So if we've all seen that person falling asleep in a meeting. Not adequate. The person that's sitting when everybody else is standing. If you've been at church and everybody stands and you stay sitting, you know it feels bad. You shouldn't do it. Speaking when you should not, and holding your peace. And of course, if everybody stops, you don't want to be the one walking. It all sounds like common sense, but pay attention. And again, a lot of this is raising awareness. That's what it'll help. Rule number 7, put not off your clothes in the presence of others, nor go out of your chamber half dressed. Same, but again, included inside of your common sense. You don't want to take your clothes off in front of others. Richard, what if I'm going to the swimming pool or in the beach? Usually it's not a thing that is the most proper to remove your clothes. The fact that you are in the beach without as much clothes on is fine. It's the fact of the clothing removal that it's talking about. It also talks about not coming out of your chamber, out of your room half dressed. So if you're coming out of your room, you change outfits. You want to not leave the room. I remember sometimes where I'm like coming out of the room and I'm putting my shirt on as I walk into the hallway of my house. And then there's somebody there that is not in my immediate family and it's not the most appropriate. So you want to come out of your room completely dressed. Rule number 8. So at play and at fire, it is good manners to give place to the last comer and affect not to speak louder than ordinary. So at play and at fire, meaning if it's a informal setting or if it's also maybe a more formal setting, it talks about it is good manners to give place to the last comer, the last person to come in, to basically facilitate. And sometimes we have this spirit when you see somebody come in late or after you, they might have to get through you to their chair or their place of sitting. And we have this spirit of oh my gosh, you're bothering, versus the good manner would be allow them and to come in peacefully and not to speak louder than ordinary. So you've all heard, you've been in a room before where somebody's speaking and you can hear a voice louder than others, or somebody's laughing in an audience and you can hear one laugh above all the others. You want to speak not louder than ordinary. Ordinary meaning what's going on in that specific setting. I love rule number 9. It talks about the adequacy, the etiquette around a fireplace, around maybe a cookout. So spit not in the fire, nor stoop low before it. Neither put your hands into the flames to warm, nor set your feet upon the fire, especially if there be meat before it. And I think the first 2, if we're not spitting into the fire, not spitting publicly is already probably the easiest one to understand as common sense. It says not stoop low before it, maybe talking a little more about safety. But I think here it's more thinking about if this fire is going to be used to cook food. Putting your hands above it, maybe not. Putting your feet above it, maybe not, even if it's cold and out to warm. And it talks about especially if there to be meat before it. So again, we've all done it where you put your hands on top of a candle or on top of the fire to get them a little warmer. You just want to think twice. If there's going to be food after, it might be not the most sanitary option. Okay. Rule number 10, when you go sit down, keep your feet firm and even without putting one on the other or crossing them. This is, I'm so guilty of this. So whether you think it is, you see it on podcasts, you see people sitting down certain ways, when you see people crossing their legs or crossing both their feet, or putting their legs in a certain way, it is not the most adequate. If you wanted to know the most adequate way to sit around others, it would just be to keep your feet firm and even on the ground, not crossing them or putting one leg on top of the other. Again, I know you might be thinking, well, I've seen so many people do this and do that, and that's fine. This is just George Washington's rules of civility and behavior. So hopefully that helps. I want you to take a look at these and not only study them or try to apply them, but just kind of put them in your mental storage and see if it helps you create not just common sense, but also grow. You can't make a first impression twice. You only have one shot to do it. Most of these are referring when you're around people and the impression you can cause in others. So hopefully that helps. And we'll see you guys next week at the next chapter.